Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of DoubleDM podcast where we talk about I don't know what we're talking about today. I totally forgot what the topic of today's episode is. I know it's gonna be a great one because all episodes of DoubleDM are great, right?
Perfectly fine to say that. Definitely no shenanigans ever.
Is what he says.
It will be amazing.
We're talking about, I remember, we're talking about high level play. Playing at levels where the characters are overpowered as shit, can beat nearly every single normal enemy, and what you as a dungeon master or game master can do about it to give your players the challenge and satisfaction of being overpowered at the same time. So first, before we dive into that question, we need to discuss what happened in our weeks today. So Niels, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Nothing much really happened. Yesterday we painted the new flat of one of my best friends. After that we got burgers. Overall just a fun day. Shenanigans, painted each other sometimes even, because when you have enough color left over, that's what you do, right? That's just a perfectly normal thing to do. Giving each other the handprint of Saruman everywhere. That's just normal,
totally
right?
Normal, totally
okay,
normal.
Perfect.
Yeah,
good,
100%.
Good to know.
100%.
Saruman prints all over, but in different colors, because we didn't paint it just white, but every wall had a different color, basically. It harmonizes well.
I was just about to ask, does it harmonize well and does it look good? Because as a best friend, when one of my best friends comes to me and says, let's paint my room in like however many different colors, I'm going to look at them like, don't get me wrong, I understand the aesthetic appeal of having more than just white walls to look at, but you know that's gonna be a pain in the ass to figure out what works well together. And the thing about white walls is you can decorate them very easily.
Yeah, with everything.
But
with white, basically.
On a red wall, I wouldn't put, I don't know what, a yellow something. Yellow might work, but
it's tougher to decorate. And they definitely created a color concept that works. It works pretty well. But when I first heard it, I was like, okay, that's a challenge.
That's a choice, by the way, too.
Yeah, most definitely.
I was very happy that I didn't have to paint anything for me to move into this apartment, because that would have just been, with these high walls that I have, it would have just been a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, it would have been.
But I actually have thought about maybe making one of the walls black.
Yeah. I mean, that's a choice. And because it can definitely work. But with dark colors, you always have to look out that the room itself doesn't get too dark if you don't want it.
My living room is that currently it's very bare, but I've been more and more thinking about going into more maximalist style and putting a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, just clutter the place up.
The more time I spend on TikTok, the more I realize that I'm very much enjoy the maximalist goth aesthetic of stuff, of having, I don't know, random skull flower pots all over the room.
Okay. It will be something to look at when I visit again.
Yeah, right now the room hasn't really changed, and I still, I wouldn't have that much space because I still have to have the room for basic functions. But the walls, I have the ability to make a lot of fun stuff with my walls, I think.
Shelves all over the walls with skull flower pots.
Yeah,
amazing.
Even though I'm not a flower person, but I love flower pots for some reason.
Just don't put flowers in the flower pots. Just put something different.
Yeah, maybe. The thing is, right, about my living room, since the only events I really host here are the ttrpg evenings I host here. Otherwise, I mostly go outside to do the stuff I want to do, or we do the stuff over Discord, because most of my friends don't necessarily live close by anymore. I can decorate the room to fit a very cool ttrpg aesthetic, right? I told you about the kind of antique shop library vibe that would really fit well with that maximalist goth aesthetic of having like a bookshelf that is also just filled with a random skull, an old bottle with a scroll in it or something, right? And I think it would just be fun to look at. It could also be a very fun story where if someone else ever enters that room that doesn't know that I'm that type of person or that type of ttrpg TTRPG, and they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yep, this is what you signed up for. Have fun.
Yeah, and then just a whole flat basically in Dark Academia vibes.
Yeah, I don't want it to be too much on the nose, though. Mm-hmm. I still want it to be a normal living room because it's the only living room I have. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go easy on that. But there are obviously, Niels, as the person that I am, I have theoretical sketch plans on random websites for sketching your living room. If I ever do get a flat with a real living room that I could, with more rooms where I could make one into a pure TTRPG room.
Mm-hmm. Of course, definitely not me. Also having that. No.
I just have to.
Who would we be?
I just have to win the lottery, buy a house, and then I'm happy.
I feel that
gambling is dangerous. People do not gamble. Okay, so that's cool. And you finished the flat. Now it looks good. You've got burgers after. Nice.
Exactly. We are not completely done, but 2 rooms are still missing, but they're pretty small.
Also, all in different colors.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Like the whole flat in different colors.
Well, the bedroom was one color on the walls, and then we'll get a picture wall, basically.
Oh.
And then a different color on the ceiling. Then the office will have light desaturated green on top, in the top 2/3, and on the ceiling, and on the bottom third it's going to be a dark forest green. The living room will be one cherry red wall.
Oh, damn. Like, it's not even like a subtle red, right? It's a very colorful popping red. Holy shit. Okay,
with
I
gold
love
glitter in it.
I love it so much.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the other 2 sides are more of a orange terracotta kind of thing.
What the hell?
And the opposite side of the red wall will be a very desaturated light terracotta color.
The hell?
The bathroom is just plain old light blue with silver glitter particles in it. And what the kitchen will look like, I don't know. I was not there for the planning.
As always.
Perfectly, probably, yeah. But yeah, the kitchen is still missing, which is a pretty small room, and 1.5 walls in the living room are missing. So yeah, we had a lot of different colored Saruman prints with glitter effects sometimes. Yes.
Okay, that's okay.
And absurdly enough, it all still works, which I didn't believe at first, but yeah, it definitely works.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it truly is. But they just decided, nope, can't live with white walls anymore. Just not gonna do that shit.
No, but I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. As said, my walls are very blank right now, and I still need to decorate them everywhere. I still need to put up the soundproofing panels in this room, but I still have to find the right way to do it so that I don't have to, after a year, either get new paneling or when I move out eventually have to basically paint the wall new, because I also don't want to paint when I leave. I would very much like to not do a lot of work.
Very fair.
Okay. Personally for me, this week has been tiring, to say that, because on Tuesday I had to get up very, very early, like 6:30 in the morning.
My condolences.
Yeah, mainly because I wanted to get a lot of work in before I go for a trip. I get to decide when I work myself, and I get to take my own hours. So I am in charge of making sure that I make enough money a week. I don't have a plan that I have to work after. I just say to my boss when I want to work, and I do that. Or I don't have to tell it to my boss, I just put it into an Excel sheet and be done with it. So yeah, I then went on a trip. Why did I go on this trip? Well, this trip was to the middle of Germany, to a little town called Bad Harzburg, which is a very nice city or a very nice town, but my grandparents live there. Because my grandfather, as old as he is, aged to the age of 90 years old on Tuesday, on Tuesday, on the 4th of July. So first of all, he wants me to thank the whole internet for the US of America for celebrating his birthday. Thank you for that. But please do not set up fireworks in close proximity to veterans or animals, please. Thank you. It was his birthday. It was his 90th birthday. And with that advanced age, there comes the realization I might not get to the next 10, and I might not get to the 100 years. So he invited basically everyone. And yeah, then the thing was, okay, I will make it work to get to my grandpa's birthday. So yeah, we then went there and celebrated his birthday in a very, very fancy restaurant there.
All right.
three meals of 3-part meals. Very, very lovely appetizer, spinach soup.
Okay.
Didn't know that existed, but
me neither, but sure.
Then we had schnitzel.
Perfect.
With asparagus, because it is still season. What was season. And then also a dessert. A lot of drinking happened.
As per usual on
champagne, beers. I did shots with my grandpa.
Oh boy. And obviously they had to be clear so the liver don't see them coming, right?
Oh no, it was Jägermeister.
Oh damn, yeah, even better.
It was cold Jägermeister. It was ice cold Jägermeister.
Perfect. So something healthy, right?
Yes, something very healthy. I met all kinds of different people from my family that I didn't know existed, mainly because the last time I saw them, I was like 7 years old. Like, right, I know these people existed, but I never really had a connection to them because I was a kid back then and didn't really care. I only cared for the Nintendo DS in my hand at that time, which is very fun to see because now you're at the age of 24 at this birthday and see the kids of those people that saw you with 12 also only be interested in their Nintendo Switch. No judgment here because bro, same. And you're gonna go on to do great things, my guy.
Yeah,
but I get it now.
Please,
I get it now. Yeah, but right, we also have, as per usual with a European family, we also have family in Italy and France, and the Italians came, and I don't speak a lot of Italian. My Italian is very much only bene and the hand sign, which is enough to communicate that the food is good and that everything works,
or everything is shit.
Or
either
everything
way,
is shit.
It works. It's a communication method that just works.
I can pick up words from them, what they're saying, but I cannot communicate everything. Late night, went to sleep, had to wake up early, didn't really sleep at all because sleeping on an inflatable mattress isn't really that comfortable. Normally works for a night, but I just didn't sleep. Yeah, then had to travel back to Berlin yesterday on Wednesday, and didn't sleep at all to today really because I had a math tutorial this morning to get up, and I went to sleep way too late, and I hate my body for it. If the sleep police is listening, I am sorry. I wanted to sleep, I couldn't, and now I can't go to sleep because I have to record, and after this I have to work. So cheers to that. We are already very far into the recap, so let's do a quick fire round of TTRPGs. Did you have any, Niels?
No.
Good. Did I have
quick
any?
Fire round?
No.
Perfect.
Well, no, I had one on a Thursday.
Okay.
It was a massacre. I'm going to say it like that. It was a massacre. We were standing in front of someone that basically called themselves God or King or blah, 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 an undying person because of some life crystal thingy, blah, 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 magic. And we fought 30 different guards of this person, this demon, and summoned other demons. And it took us 4.5 hours, a whole session, to murder everything.
Damn.
We survived, but barely. And I also got turned into a dinosaur once, so that's pretty cool. One of the mages of this demon king polymorphed me into basically a very small dinosaur. Our wizard, who just fell down the stairs next to me, grabbed me as a dinosaur and gave me a potion of enlargement and turned me basically into a T-Rex without teeth. But I basically became a big dinosaur. This lizard mage only knew small dinosaurs as the most harmless thing ever. And then our wizard said, no, fuck that. I can't turn you back into a human, so I'm just gonna turn you into a big dinosaur.
Unharmless. That's one reason I love TTRPGs. I mean, if you look at some battle maps randomly in the midst of combat, you can have the party fighting somewhere in the fucking snow against undead yetis while there is a feathered T-Rex just stomping somewhere around on a walrus because something else got turned into a walrus. And everyone is just, okay, that's a thing. What the fuck?
So much stuff happened. We killed everything, and boy, were we showered in blood after it.
And your characters, I can't imagine those.
Trauma.
Severe trauma.
And that's all.
Perfect.
Low TTRPG week, you could say, but that's only gonna be ramping up from now on, probably again, because now I have the time again personally. And after exams, there's also gonna be a lot more stuff. So I have nothing else.
Me neither.
So let's jump into our episode on high-level play in Dungeons & Dragons and also other TTRPGs that have level scales and power levels. Hey listener, how are you enjoying the show so far? Tell us about it in whatever way you see fit. Go to our social media pages and add us or DM us about your favorite episode of the show. We would love to hear from you on what impact our show might have had on your home games. Or you could review us on your podcast app of choice and leave us a nice message with a 5-star review. And if you want to go above and beyond, bring a friend into the fold. Tell them about our show and refer us to them so they can get a piece of the pie as well. Thank you for listening to DoubleDM and joining us on this incredible journey.
So, Amy, I was thinking, I had a session 0 recently that proposed a new campaign where we start, or in D&D, it's a D&D campaign where we start at level 11. I think it was level 11, so rather high level. And I was thinking, how does high level play in D&D really feel like? Because I never really had that, because that's not my usual go-to when I myself start jamming a campaign. I wanted to talk to you about that a bit. In general, high level play, not necessarily just one system, but overall, how does it feel and all of that. Do you have any experience with high level play in TTRPGs?
Well, in TTRPGs, given for whatever system we have, right? Yeah, I have for a few systems, I have probably what I would consider high level experience. But let's talk about D&D for a minute here. The highest player characters I ever GM'd for were probably level 13. And I think even that was only a one-shot. The highest campaign I currently have is, I think, level 12 with my Tyranny of Dragons game, which is highly modified. Since the normal module ends at level 15, mine is going to end at level like 19 or 20. But they are level 12 right now. And yeah, that's the highest campaign I've ever had, personally. So when your campaign starts at level 11, that is already basically just as high as I have ever gone in a campaign that started at level 1.
Yeah.
So to that question that you just asked, I have to answer no. I've never had player characters level 19 or 20 do something in my or finish a campaign or whatever. I've never had that before. I've had other campaigns and other systems finished where the characters were pretty much godlike or overstated or whatever. But in D&D, not yet. And now, personally, we can talk about the level range of D&D, which is 1 to 20. That's the level range that we have in D&D 5th edition. And that's what we're going to look at right now. So we have the spectrum of level 1 to level 20. Niels, where do your campaigns usually start and where do they usually end? And why these 2 points, if they're not the 1 and 20?
Okay. Most of my campaigns start around level 3. Just because everyone got their subclass already, or can choose it from the beginning. Or is rather already not that fragile anymore. So even if a goblin crits, it's not a TPK all of a sudden. So I have a bit more wiggle room, or everyone has a bit more wiggle room. And you can already do some fun stuff, but not to a degree that is game breaking on a first session. That's why I feel like level 3, around that, level 2, 3, 4, something along those lines is pretty fun. Because, I mean, choosing a subclass in play through a character arc or something along those lines is amazing, I think, or something along those lines can be a lot of fun. But it's hard to build something that's so that everyone at the same time gets their subclass. And I'm not a huge fan of having the same group in different power levels or in different levels.
To talk about the starting point, right? 3 is the most often, I think, answered, that's where my campaigns start usually, point, because of the reasons you've just mentioned for people, for most other people as well, right? The subclass thing is especially interesting to me because I find it very interesting to play characters that do not have a subclass yet as well. I find that interesting. But But the problem doesn't arise from not having a subclass. It arises from the other person next to me clearly has an advantage at this level because they already have a subclass.
Exactly.
If all subclasses would start at level 3, I would love to play at level 1 every single time.
Yeah.
Because it means that the first 2 levels are very basic. A fighter is just a fighter. They're not an arcane archer. They are a fighter that uses a bow. And when you hit level 3, your GM can make that into a completely crucial moment in the story. The first 2 levels are tutorial, basically, if you want to say it like that. The problem with that, however, is that while for some it is a tutorial of this is how you shoot a bow, for others it's this is how you use the magic given to you by a fucking archdevil. There's a difference in that for me.
Yeah. That's why when I have a group of new people, I a lot of times start at level 1 and recommend, don't force or anything like that. They can all choose whatever the fuck they want, but recommend something that gets their subclass at level 3, just because you can learn the basics of your class through the first 2 levels and then get additions as things move forward. These are basically the 2 main starting points, either everyone at level 1 or at level 3, depending on the situation and the classes that everyone wants to play and how the experience level of the table is. If I have 1 new player and 4 veterans, we can go whatever level we like because 5 veterans can help a new player pretty good, I think. At least all of my tables and all of the tables that I've played in can do that and are not just willing but enjoying to do so.
Yeah, but I think this is where we can now start discussing the design and the choices and blah, because thinking about it, right, with the warlock example, you have the magic you get is all coming from an archdevil. It would make no sense for the warlock to get their subclass not at the level that they're currently getting it at.
Exactly.
Because where does the magic come from for you, or does a warlock not get magic until the pact? Because in the class description, in the metaphysical whatever this class is, they only get their magic through a pact. They have to have made that pact beforehand. But that's at the same time means that a fighter that has just been trained to fight can at some point else take up a subclass, because their basic training of how to fight is finished. But now they are also learning how to shoot an arcane bow. And they have unlocked the secrets to this arcane bow now, after having trained with it. So the idea I get why subclasses start at different levels is completely okay for me. But you need to have, what is more important to me than the subclass itself is what the subclass means, what it stands for, which means extra features, extra flavor, extra anything. And that extra is missing from the classes that do not get it at level 1 or at level 2. You need to give these classes something else so that there's a trade-off, so that it's worth to start at level 1 for a group when one of them is a cleric and the other one is a warlock and the third is a fighter that doesn't have something for the first 2 levels to really identify them. Right? I'm a cleric, I'm a warlock, I'm a fighter. But the cleric is not just a cleric, he's a cleric of light, of the goddess of whatever the fuck. And the warlock is not just a warlock, he's a warlock that made a pact with an archfey to do this and this. And the fighter? Yeah, he's just a fighter. There needs to be something. I understand why they did it, because how the class is supposed to look and feel and work and play, it makes sense. But there is just no trade-off needed. And this is why most people, I think, start at level 3, because the imbalance that they feel, even though technically in game terms, it might not even be there. This is important, but in game terms, it might not even be there that the difference is actually there, because the features don't mean much. There is no big feature anyway. The just felt difference is huge.
Yeah.
And that was not mitigated. And this is also what high level play is about. When we now get to the other end of the spectrum, it's all about the feeling. Even though the game, the math might be mathing and everything might be making sense. If it doesn't feel like it's making sense, if it doesn't feel right, it just isn't for most people. And that is something that, well, in my opinion, you just have to accept. If your wizard player feels completely outbuffed by the sorcerer player, even though the math might not be saying that, that is still something that is just happening. And let's say it like that, that's a problem you can address at your table. If one of your players feels underpowered, next to the others, even though the game might not be saying it, they might feel like that. And that's still valid. And that's still something that you can talk about. We can't just argue with numbers here. We also have to argue with what it actually feels like to play the game, because that is what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly.
To play the game, not to let a machine play the game. I don't need an AI dungeon master that exactly calculates everything. I don't need that.
Yeah, because I think especially in the caster versus martial divide or a discussion that is always there, even if the math, because it definitely does, a fighter does more DPS than a wizard or more consistently. But it still feels like the caster is way, way more powerful than the fighter just because they have way more tools at their disposal and they're way more versatile for all of the situations because they have so much weird and cool shit they can do. So it just feels like there's something wrong, even though the math doesn't suggest it or it doesn't tell that it is. But the feeling is exactly the point where this gets difficult, you could say.
Yeah, always gets difficult with feelings.
Yeah, and the way that I would prevent that or would try to mitigate that feeling is to build the encounters differently.
Yeah.
You can't design an encounter for a 3rd level party the same way as you do for a 17th or 19th level party.
No,
or you can, but then the feeling of the gap between martials and casters or whatever the fuck, right, is just way more felt. Because if you have an encounter where at 3rd level, everyone has the same objective, survive, basically, or do this and this. And the approach is pretty similar because you don't have all the tools yet. But if you have all the tools, like with level 20, you can have so many different approaches to a simple solution or to a simple problem that if you want to challenge them all, want to challenge all of them in their own field of expertise, you have to build an encounter that specifically highlights certain fields of expertises.
Yeah, I agree with that. The thing is, right, if you design something for level 3, you can be very straightforward with what you design.
Yeah.
Or you will be, because it is still simple, right? The fighter has this many features, the cleric has this many features, the wizard has this many spells. It's all very manageable. You can take a look at the character sheets your players have, and for a quick glance, you as a GM can see everything that you need to see to find out what encounter you need to design. Now look at the spell list of level 17 wizard. They have, first of all, they have spell slots of every level. So that's 9 spell slot levels plus cantrips. They have probably around 38 base spells. That's the 17 times 2 plus 4 is the minimum the wizard has, because they get 2 spells at every level. Plus probably all the spells they picked up along the campaign. So let's just go with like something like 45 to 50.
And the thing with that is, I think the wizard spell list is around 350 different spells, something along those lines if you count all the cantrips. So there is a wide variety of different combinations of spells that these types of characters can have. And it's not as straightforward anymore.
But the same goes for the fighter even. Even though they might not have a spell list. They have 4 or 5 features. They have very high ability scores with their constant ASIs. They might have feats. They might have magic items. Is something that is completely in your control as a dungeon master, by the way, or as a game master, to hand out or hand not out. If you don't hand out magic items and you say this campaign is completely without magic items to your players, right? That gives you a little bit more manageability because you don't have to look at magic items anymore. But basically what this means is the higher level you go in Dungeons and Dragons, the more options your players have to do bigger things. It's not just that they can do bigger things, like the fireball doesn't increase, right? For example, kind of would be fun, would be a game where you basically get 3 spells at the beginning, and the only thing you level is those 3 spells. More range, more damage, more whatever, more effects. Would be interesting as well. Would still be very manageable, but maybe be able to still see the high level play with that if you get to engineer your spells in that way. But in D&D, you have not just cool things at your disposal to do, like changing the weather, stopping time. You have so many options to do cool, different things. You don't just have time stop. You have time stop, weather change, gravity change, teleportation across planes, whatever the fuck, right? Meteor swarms and wish as a fucking catch-all for all the rest things you want to do. There's just so much. And you as a game master cannot keep track of that. So the first advice for designing high-level play that I have, even though the highest I've been at is 12, but even at that point, like at like level 7, 8, 9, I just stop looking at the character sheets of my players because I know I cannot keep track of everything they have. It's just not possible for me as one person to keep track of 4 different characters, what they all can do, what they all have. Right? I have the basic knowledge of new features, especially so I can tell my players when they do something, oh, you have that new feature, by the way, why don't you use it this time, right? Or whatever. But I cannot keep track of everything. It's the player's job to do that, in my opinion, because I just cannot as a GM. I would like to, but I can't.
Yeah.
But that means that the first advice for designing high-level play is to stop caring what's on the character sheet. This sounds completely ridiculous, but something that a lot of GMs that I've talked to over the years have said to me is basically always the same. It doesn't matter who the characters are, design the encounter void of the characters. Design an organic encounter for the region or story they are in. Design a good encounter regardless of who they are. And that is true. Gonna be very honest. It is true as fuck to stop caring what characters you have and start designing the encounter that you think is just best for the situation currently at hand. That also includes designing a monster that is somewhat challenging these players, obviously. But challenging these players doesn't mean that they can counter every single spell that the players have, so you can get them to do other cool things. It means that you have a monster that, when you look at it on a first glance, once again, the first glance base is just as strong as one of the player characters or just as strong as the group of player characters. You don't have to analyze everything. You cannot work out every possibility after like level 7 in D&D anyway.
Yeah.
Stop trying.
And I think there is a difference, at least for me, when starting at a very high level or getting to that and then playing at that level. Just in the feel that you as a game master or dungeon master have when you want to design encounters, or as a player character when you are suddenly playing at that level or building up towards it. Just because when you completely start at this, like let's say you start at level 16, you're more or less suddenly plunged into this character. You may know how all of these things work mechanically, but you still have to figure out when to use every single ability. When you progress through the game towards that level, you nearly get only a new feature once you've learned how to use the other features and in what situations you can use them. And then the combination of those, and then so on and so forth. You're expanding your tool chest rather than just getting into a completely fitted workshop.
Yeah, but really, for high-level play, I think it's also fun to think about this, right? A lot of people ask, how can I challenge my high-level players? Because it's a hard question to ask, and I've asked it myself, and I will ask it myself again, and everyone will, and it's just how it is. So, for example, you have your players currently, wandering through a desert, and you want them to be attacked by something that lurks beneath the sand. And you have this very cool monster plant, and it has a very low whatever modifier. I don't know which one is needed, but the wizard casts Polymorph. You fail the saving throw, and now players have this 1 HP rabbit with them that they can just leave behind. They completely circumvented your encounter. Or did they? Because, well, maybe they've instantly outsmarted you. No, I don't think that that's true. Because the player made a decision, okay, I'm gonna cast Polymorph, let's hope it works. And then the dice, who are a part of the game, told a story that this is what is supposed to happen right now. And it happened. And boom. Yeah, sure, it might feel a little bit stingy, I'm not gonna lie, but honestly, at the same time, what a cool fucking moment. Because if it would have not worked, maybe the wizard would have put himself in a very bad position for this monster to eat him.
Yeah.
It's a split decision in the fight. It's a thing that happens. It's luck involved. It's everything we want from TTRPGs. And sure, yeah, you didn't get to nearly kill your player characters once again, but hey, the next fight will come and that monster will not fail the saving throw, and no big deal. You did not fail to design an encounter. Your players just dealt with an encounter. That you engaged them with the encounter, and they dealt with it in their own way. That's what's supposed to happen.
Exactly. And I think it's easier at high levels to have your ego hurt in the if you wanted to call it like that, if your amazing encounter got circumvented by casting Polymorph, for example. It's way or it feels more of a shot to your own ego, but we are not here to compare egos or who has the best encounter or whatever the fuck. We are here to create an amazing story and have fun. And so just this is an advice for everyone, not just GMs or players, it's for both. Put your ego aside. in that regard. No one cares if your monster failed the saving throw or didn't, or no one should care. Only the story should care, because your monster got polymorphed. Okay, cool. Now deal with it and don't be mad about it, because an amazing counter has gone to waste. No, it hasn't. It has just been solved in a different way than you anticipated, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's where we get back to what we once said, right? Don't design encounters with a solution in mind.
Exactly.
Design situations. Design a situation where your players are in a desert and get attacked by a sandworm, because the sandworm wants to eat something. You don't know if your players are gonna win or lose that fight. So why are you so mad that your players won the fight? Right? Don't you want them to win?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, D&D is a power fantasy. So please let your players play out that power.
Yeah.
Because they get more powerful. That's the way this game is designed, for a reason. They have all these cool, amazing, and weird shit and features and whatever the fuck. Let them use it. Create situations where they might use it. Not they have to, but they might. And then go with it. Because that's amazing for you, that's amazing for the story, and therefore it's amazing for everyone at the table.
Yeah. Don't we always talk as a TTRPG hobby and group that we want our players to win? Don't we always say we're on the side of the players? But then when they do something fucking epic, to be exact, polymorph a giant creature into a rabbit or whatever, and run away? I mean, yeah, sure, again, the cool epic fight could have been just as epic. But this single moment was also very epic for the players, probably.
Yeah.
So if you preach being a fan of your players, you should also preach that your players should be able to use polymorph to circumvent every fight that they get across if they want to. Because at some point they won't. And again, if you really want your players to not polymorph something, you have 1,000 options at your disposal against it. Yeah. I don't know, polymorph, I don't know what the save for that is, but the monster has a very high safety seed. Legendary fucking resistances are a thing that exist.
Transmutable forms.
Intransmutable form. Fucking counter spell. You have options as well. So if you really want to counter your players, which I'm gonna say on high level play is gonna be one of the tactics you are able and allowed and should use. But you don't counter your players by blocking off everything, but you can always disable a few tools that they like to use to make them use one of the other cool tools that they have. But you don't do that so you get your players into peril and basically kill their characters. You do that so they can use the other cool stuff that they have. You use that to enable them once again. This is not about disabling them, it's about enabling them. Always, at every given level, at every given point, but especially in high level, they have a lot of options. And they will tend to the ones that they can use best, that they find best. Disabling those will just give them the opportunity to do other things that they also like but haven't done.
And I think you just touched on a good subject there, because in a lower level, you can make an encounter harder or more difficult or whatever by just increasing the numbers on the monster. Using a different monster that has higher base stats, higher HP, higher damage, and whatever. At higher levels, that gets more difficult because they have all the different tools at their disposal to stop that damage, to heal back that damage, or to prevent something, and to deal even more damage. But I think one of the main things that you can do to increase the challenge of a situation is play the monsters to their best, or to all of their, or use all of their abilities in a way that these creatures would or could use it. We talked about that in a episode about monster tactics or enemy tactics. And I think this is an amazing way to create situations that are challenging without just increasing damage and HP. Because for example, in video games, I hate it when I just play hard mode and then I play super hard mode, but the only thing that's changed is the HP level and the damage, because that's not really fun. But if it forces me to think differently, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, right, you can always buff numbers to make stuff different, right? You can also, at high level play, you can also just give your monster 1,000 HP more, and it's gonna create a different, longer, harder fight for your players. But yeah, it's the easy cop-out. But it's a good reason why it's the easy cop-out. It's easy, and you should use it. It's not that it's a cheap trick or whatever. Adjusting the monster HP on the fly is a cheap trick. Now we can discuss if that's okay or not, blah, 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 fudging dice, fudging rolls, fudging things. I hate it. We don't talk about it yet, at least. Maybe at some point, once again, I will not do this episode unless I have to. But at high level play, right, the thing is, what you always have to remember is, if your players have a lot of options at their disposal, or a lot of things at their disposal, a lot of power at their disposal, do you know who also has that power? You. Because right? Your players are able to survive everything. So why not throw that lich riding a Tarrasque at them?
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? They can survive everything else, so why not try this? And if they die, they die. If they live, they live.
Yeah, that's one thing that you always got to keep in mind. And this is not only for D&D, but for basically every TTRPG, is that as long as, or in the same way as your player's tool chests expands, so does yours. Or basically, you have all the tools already, but you're unlocking them to use them in a way that's not just instantly, okay, I killed my players. That's the thing. That's one thing that I always try to do, have a challenging experience, but without necessarily killing my players. If it happens, it happens. But it's no fun for anyone if I put a level 3 party against a Tarrasque, because if you want to kill something in your games, it's no challenge for you, because you can just use whatever monsters would fit best. Oh yeah, now there are 5 Tarrasque. Cool, you're dead. That's not fun and no real experience.
Yeah.
But if you have all these tools at your disposal that you can use without exactly creating such a situation where everyone just dies or loses or whatever, then it gets interesting, because you have all these tools that you can use in a different combination, and experimenting with different combinations of different tools that you have, using the environment to the advantage of the opponent, using a different combination of monsters or opponents or whatever. This is where the fun begins, where you now have a riddle that you as a GM have to solve or want to solve to create an amazing situation where you don't know the answer to, but will come out in play through the input of your characters, through the prompts that you give them.
Niels, let me ask you a question.
All right.
Who is Superman's greatest villain?
Well,
not canon technically for you personally. What do you think of when you think of Superman villains? Who's the first? Whatever.
I don't know any Superman villains. So I would say Kryptonite. Haha.
I hate him here. You don't know any villains' names. Please tell me.
I've never seen any movies, read any comics, nothing. I am not a big fan of Superman. I just know he can fly and is powered by the sun.
Okay. Who is the greatest villain for Batman?
The Joker.
Why? Now we can get into a discussion. Why? And I think there's going to be a lot of different comic books and movie discussions about this. But I want to focus on the fact that what makes the Joker the Joker?
Just the way he interacts with the world around him and his reasoning.
Yes.
Or the lack thereof.
Yes. But more on a comic book power level. He doesn't have powers.
Exactly. He's just a dude.
The thing about Batman is he also doesn't have powers, so that's why I didn't want to use Batman. I wanted to use Superman's Lex Luthor, who's just a rich fucking asshole.
Lex Luthor. I've heard that name.
Obviously, you've heard that name. It's one of the most iconic villains in comic books. But he's Superman. He's one of Superman's villains. He's one of the first villains of Superman, as far as I know. Superman, being an alien, being able to fly, laser eyes, cold breath, X-ray vision, whatever they want him to do, he was able to do it. And yet still, a villain with no human superpowers, an ordinary human with no superpowers, was able to be a villain, be a threat to Superman. And you as a dungeon master can do exactly what the comic writers did with Lex Luthor. Your players are high level. They are Superman. They are Batman. They are Spider-Man. They are Iron Man. They are Doctor Strange. And their villains don't always have to be Ultron or Loki from the Avengers.
Or Dormammu or whatever.
Or Dormammu or Darkseid from DC. They don't have to be these powerful ultra beings that kill and destroy everything they want. They can also be fucking humans or normal people that have a way different way of threatening these characters. The threat doesn't have to always be physically, right? Or even mentally. It can be a threat to something entirely different, right? Lex Luthor's entire villain type is more or less the villain that gets Superman so he isn't able to use his powers against him, because that wouldn't work for Superman. Superman cannot kill Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor is a human, and killing him would mean that Superman is a killer. At the same time, Lex Luthor threatens basically everything Superman stands for and is and loves and cares for, so that Superman just cannot stop him, or can only stop him if he does something, right? I don't want to get into comics because I haven't read that many comics. The villain of Lex Luthor is someone that doesn't use overwhelming force and power to achieve what he wants. And you can do the same with your characters. If your characters are able to cast Wish, maybe wish is even the easy cop-out because they can just wish the villain away, blah, blah, blah. We all know that theoretically everything works with wish. So let's take wish out of the equation. But if your players are able to cast 9th level spells and do everything they want, you don't have to threaten them with, oh yeah, this villain is even stronger than you are and you have to fight him or you die. But this villain goes, yeah, okay, cool, you guys want to kill me, but if you do that, something bad happens and you cannot stop it. So I guess we're not gonna do it then, right?
Exactly. The target of the threats of your villain in high-level play. Players are not necessarily the best target for those threats. They can be, but they don't have to be.
Yeah.
But rather the world, the people around them, the confines of reality or whatever, right? Something that the players or the characters still need in the world, for without it, the world is done. Being it the world itself or the confines of reality, being it natural forces or all of the people in the world, something along those lines. Because without a world, there is nothing to fight for.
Yeah.
But if that way of life is threatened, then they have a reason, and then you can play with moral quandaries and all of that fun stuff. That is not necessarily a priority at lower levels, but at higher levels, one of our crew died. Okay, yeah, so let's just wait 500 years. We have true resurrection, no biggie. We can get him back. That's not a big deal. But being able to threaten everything around it, that the players not necessarily can directly change if that happens. This is the interesting or important part, how you can still propose a threat, even though the threat isn't focused on the players themselves.
Yeah, right. I don't know if this is actually a Superman plot. So, but I just thinking about it, right? Superman visits Lex Luthor and Lex Luthor says, ha, you can't kill me, because if you do, everyone will know that you're, first of all, not a savior. And second of all, if you do that, I have, 1,000 fail safes that will destroy everything else, right? Basic stuff. But like, this is gonna play with your players. You're playing a mental game with your players. You're playing a mental game of chess, because your players know that they have to stop this villain. And as they are the heroes, they want to be the heroes. They want to save the world and stop the villain, but they can't. This is a way better challenge than, haha, I am the giant planet eater. I will fight you. Ah, oh no, you beat me. I die. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I enjoy fucking both. I enjoy both. And both are valid. As with everything, basically, you just have to choose. You just have to do something. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to do just one thing, but do something that works. And for that, you don't always have to increase the threat. You can always just separate the threat. You can choose many targets. One fun thing, I find high-level play works personally, especially in this threat and being heroes kind of way, is Aegon, a TTRPG that we are currently playing, right? Yeah. We as a group, you as the Strife player, which is the GM for that system. And in the final confrontation, right, there's 3 stages. And even though the characters are from beginning to end of the game, they are fucking overpowered. I'm gonna be honest. Even at the beginning, where they're supposed to be like these mythic people, they might not necessarily be heroes of ancient epic tales.
Not yet, at least.
But they are very much better than every ordinary human ever will be.
Definitely.
And that is the basis of it. You have the capability to become a hero. Now show us how you can become a hero with this system. Perfect premise. Great. But it's high-level play to ultra-high-level play, basically.
Yeah.
In the 3 different phases of the final confrontation, Niels, we have the clash phase, the threat phase, and the
finale, the final battle, you could say. It's literally called finale. In the first phase, it's basically how you interact with a villain once you see them the first, or interact with them the first time, basically. In the threat phase, it's weighing if you want to block threats or want to seize control of the situation itself. Because if you seize control, the threats might still happen.
Yeah.
Or if you block the threats, the villain is still in control.
Yeah, but that's the interesting part of it. Because the Strife player, I don't know what it actually looks for the Strife player on your end, but the Strife player basically decides this opponent is going to create a threat there, and there. And you as the heroes, need to fully decide, do you want to seize control? If you don't block the threats still happen. If you don't seize control, the opponent has control. And they decide what happens if they win.
Exactly. That's the part. If you seize control, you can decide what will happen to the opposing side, whether you win or you lose. Both is decided by you.
Let's be honest. That is the most essence of being a high-level character in a TTRPG. You have full control of the situation at hand right now. And now in Aegon, which is a very, very more story-focused game than D&D, right? In D&D, the story is overlaid onto the system. In Aegon, it is baked in. It is part of it. Because you as the player can decide, if I lose this contest, this enemy kills me.
Yeah.
And only that way is for you basically to die, right? That's the only way you can die. Is that correct, Niels? I don't know if you...
And not necessarily. It depends. You yourself can say, I want to die in this contest, but therefore definitely succeeding no matter what I rolled. This is also a possibility.
Yeah. There's no game mechanical way that I can get killed without me saying I want this.
Exactly, because the story itself doesn't care if you die or not, because the game ends if your story is done. However the story is done, being it if you return to your home, settle down, get killed, get lost, or venture through the underworld, whatever. This is when you've met your fate, then you can decide how you want your story to end. It's all on you. You decide if you want to die or not, and all of this stuff.
And let's be honest, these characters, especially if you're playing in a group of like 3 to 4 people, one of them is going to beat the contest every time.
Yeah.
So you basically do everything that you set out to do because you just want to do. It's nearly impossible to not win nearly every contest.
Because in Aegon, it's if one of your group, meets the target number, basically meets the DC, the whole thing is won by the group of players. Only if everyone fails, then the thing or the villain happens. And that's nearly never.
Nearly never, yeah.
It can be, but it's highly unlikely, even from the first time. You get way stronger with time, but you're also fucking amazing from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because no matter how weak you are, in quotation marks weak, in the first session, you could theoretically best a god, in theory.
In theory.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you kill the god, because
it's
immortality and shit.
Blah, blah, blah.
But you can still best it. And most likely, because just of pure chance, because someone will roll high enough.
Chance will always happen. But I think, especially with Aegon as a system, it just plays so well into that power fantasy perfect hero trope for me. As a system, right, you have basically full control over your character, right? You have always full control over your character. But in Aegon, it's so easy to say, I'm not going to be part of a contest because I don't want to be. And then nothing can damage you in that contest because you're not part of the contest.
Exactly.
If you say, I'm not going to do the thing that we need to do because someone else will do it for us, I don't have to do it. You're never forced to make a role in Aegon. At least I have not seen that.
You're definitely not forced.
You cannot be forced because you as a player have the full control. That is also power fantasy. And the game gives the power fantasy of that character to the player. I don't know if that's intentional by John Harper, who made the system, or who made Blades in the Dark as well, but I love it.
Yeah, it's truly amazing.
It definitely plays perfectly into what Aegon is.
Yeah, because the whole premise of this thing is you as a character, you as a medieval, you as an ancient mythological hero, play this game, or you as a player who plays this hero, is there to create a story that is maybe told for eons to come. And no one cares, not necessarily how you did what, but what you did and how it played out on the world around you, because that's what is being told. No one is going to talk about how many strikes it took you or with a weapon to best this giant or this cyclops or this sea monster. No one cares. They only care that you bested it. And that's the whole thing.
And now looking at Aegon once again, it's a fucking basic system. That's not an insult to the system or John Harper, by the way, because it doesn't have to be more than what I see here. The character sheet is literally one page.
Exactly.
You have your epithet, you have your name, you have your lineage or you have the lineage and pronouns, you have the sign off, you have honored gods, you have your domains, you have your divine favor, and that's it.
Yeah, it's half a page.
That's all you need to roll. You then also have your bonds that you can use, you have your great deeds that you can use, you have some place to track your glory, right? The little bit extra stuff, basically. But generally looking at this, right, all the information, all the options I have are on a page, and most of these things aren't even options. The options I have is what domain do I use if my Strife player allows me to argue what domain I want to use. if I want to use a divine favor, if I want to use a bond, if I want to use a great deed or trophy, that's it. That's four different decisions I can even make in the system.
Yeah, and the rest is up to your imagination and what you want to do.
But these 4 decisions alone lead to these incredible high-level, high-profile things. You don't need 1,000 options to create high-level play.
Exactly, because everything on that character sheet can be put onto a post-it note. You don't have to make it complex to make it high-level.
What is more important for high-level play, for me, as I see with Aegon, is the feeling of high-level.
Yeah.
Is the feeling of being epic and heroic and mythic and whatnot all you want to use. Of being a god, basically.
Yeah.
That is where it's at. And you can evoke that feeling, first of all, as a GM, by creating challenges, by creating a world that allows your players to feel that epicness. But second of all, by the system you play. In Aegon, every time we play, I feel like a fucking ancient epic hero.
I mean, that's because you are. Every one of you.
Yeah, exactly, right? But that's by design.
Yeah.
In D&D, at the beginning, feel like a fucking commoner and normal person, and at the end, like a god. Now, that is also something that might be desired, right? That journey of starting small, becoming basically the biggest. But if you want to just do high-level play, just choose a system that basically only does high-level play. If you want to only do low-level play, just choose a system that only does low-level play. You don't always have to use D&D and, for example, limit the ranges of the level, because I think that there's a merit in using all 20 of D&D's levels. If they would be a little bit better designed, if everything would be a little bit better, right? D&D has a lot of design problems for me. We all know that I don't necessarily like the design of D&D best anymore, but it's a good system still for me personally. It's fun. I can play it with my friends. They all know it. That's why I play it mostly. It's not because I really think that it's the best system out there, but it has that advantage that I have theoretically a very big range to choose from, which is good.
Exactly. And overall, just choose every situation that you want to play or every scenario that you want to play has a system, has some system that works best for that scenario. And then don't be afraid to try out new things and try out new systems that work for the scenarios that you want to play.
Yeah, be very open to that, especially, right, if you want to do one specific style, high level, low level. Don't gravitate to a system that kinda does it, but right, the thing about D&D is that it kinda wants to do way too much. Aegon doesn't want to do too much. Aegon wants you to be a fucking hero and be done after like 10 sessions.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even after 1 session.
Yeah, because the journey itself is just, or the things that you experience is the important part, not how you achieve them necessarily. Or in what order. It doesn't fucking matter.
And that's why Aegon, right? Aegon is very episodic designed. D&D isn't necessarily very episodic when looking at a game like Aegon, where every island is its self-contained challenge, trial, and whatever. And at the end, it only matters that we bested the challenge of that island.
Exactly.
We did this and this. We did this and that on this island. We did this on this island. It doesn't matter if that island actually was the first or the last.
Exactly.
It just matters that we did something.
Yeah. The only thing that matters in Aegon is what you did and not in what order. Because even if you used some sort of things that you found on one island because you bested that challenge, it doesn't mean that you couldn't have done it without it. You most certainly could have. So it doesn't matter if you best a god in the first one, but then perish to a pitchfork in the second. It could also have been you've been stabbed by a pitchfork in the first island and then bested the god. No one cares, as long as you know what you did. And in D&D or similar games, it's more of a, this happened because of that, and that happened because of that, and it builds more on top of each other. It's more connected.
What you just said is very interesting to me, because I think we can draw from that for basically all high-level players, the last advice for this episode. Right? It doesn't matter how you did it, it just matters what you did. Now, this is specifically for Aegon said, right? In D&D or other systems, it could matter way more how you actually do the thing. But still, the what you did is important, because if you're at high level, I think that's my big problem with actually starting at high level. To get back to what you asked in the beginning, how did I get here is not necessarily important, but what did I do with my powers beforehand?
Yeah.
Right? What great deeds, to use Aegon's language, did I already achieve? I am level 12 or level 11. I have the power to fucking change the weather. Why did I never do anything with that? Or rather, what did I do with that? Because I would definitely do something with that.
Exactly.
And that is the importance of high-level play for me. To get back to that feeling of high-level play. Showcasing the great, important, fucking cool shit that has been done, that was done, that is being done right now. That needs to be highlighted.
Exactly.
The high level play is about the grand big things. You have to have the grand big things. You have to have the grand big things to happen. They need to save an entire city from extinction from a meteor swarm. Because otherwise they wouldn't be able to use the cool powers that they have.
Exactly. Yeah, perfectly said.
Yeah.
And I think with that, I don't have anything else regarding that. Do you?
I think I'm basically done with everything I wanted to say.
So yeah, then thanks for listening and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DoubleDM. It appears you liked this one. What we had to say and our advice helped you. Why not show us how we helped you in a rating? Or even write a review detailing us how we helped. You can do this on the platform that you are listening on right now. It's just a few clicks, doesn't take long, and helps us out. It gets us out there and our advice into more ears of more people. Thanks again for listening and joining us on this amazing journey. Have a great day and see you on the next one. Bye bye.